one thing I'm curious about, and I wish I suddenly thought, man, I wish I had a poll, is how many people on the call are actively using our client utilities. This is something that we've provided as a benefit to customers. Any customer of ours can download these utilities and they enhance what Vault can do. And then we have the, you can also purchase them if you're not a customer of ours. But if you're not a customer of ours, talk to us. We've got a lot more reasons than just the utilities to be working with IMAGINiT. But what I wanted to do, I do have the new features within 2024.1. And we're saying 2024.1 because 2025 Vault is not out yet. So these were really designed to be the new release. And of course, will be updated to work with Vault 2025 pretty quickly after release. But we wanted to get a step ahead with these different tools that we have. Before I talk about the tools, the new tools that we have and the different pieces, I want to do a kind of a recap of existing tool sets that are already here. A lot of times there's a lot there. So sometimes these pieces get missed as you're going through. Oh my goodness, I got way too far ahead of myself. I have to talk about me first. So hey, good afternoon. My name's Caleb Fung, and I've been here with IMAGINiT. You would think it's my first day, but it's really 23 years it'll be in May that I've been here. And that whole time, I've been focused on the data management tools, the 3D design tools for manufacturing. I've been working, of course, with Vault, way back when it first became Vault and we first started implementing it, to the progress that we've seen along with that. And probably over that time, I said hundreds. I don't know, maybe it's 100. It's a lot. I've also project managed. And so between what I've project managed and what I've personally installed, yeah, it's a lot. So it's been interesting to see all the different ways that Vault gets used, all the different tools that people are looking to implement alongside of Vault, all of the different add-ins. And this is one of the add-ins that's there with that. So now I'll go to the next spot that I was talking about, which is the idea of reviewing the tools that are already there. And I want to kind of talk through some of the tools that we have available to us and how they work. Because like I said, there's a lot of these. There's a whole lot of options. There's a whole lot of different tools available. And sometimes it's easy to get lost in what these actually do and the different pieces that we can implement. So, because realistically, you could install these and only use one feature of them, right? All the rest is there. But I just want to point out what we have. The other thing I would say is these do nothing that Vault can't already do. So they do things like create folders. They do things like push properties from one place to another. I could do all of this in Vault today. It would just be much more of a manual process. If I need to create 10 folders, I can do that. However, I can use our utilities to create those 10 folders just with a right click. So it's not different functionality in that sense. It's enhancing functionality. It's already there. And I've got them split up into a couple of different ways. I was looking through our literature and looking through some different things. And to me, these are the way I organize them differently than I see organized in like our brochure and some things, because one of the first big things is folder tools. And it's actually the little animation that I've got running over to the side is the first one that I'm talking about. And that's the idea of creating a folder from a template. So I could have a predefined template or series of templates that every time I create a new design or I start a new project, I need the same set of folders. So I could save that set of folders as a template, and then I can rename it, create them, and then have that folder set created for me. So it can be complex folder structures. It can include files in there if I wanted to. If I always wanted to have some, maybe it's some documents that I need to have in there every time I start a project, I can have permissions copied with it. So when I create those templates, it's not just the folders, it's any files that I would want to include and any templates I would want to, not templates, excuse me, any other files I want to include, any permissions I want to include. There's another tool called Create Local Folders. And again, this is a good example of what I would do with Vault. I can right click and say, go to working folder and have it create that folder on my drive for me if it doesn't exist. Create local folders, I can grab an entire branch and say, just create this all on my hard drive, just match it to there. I mentioned the idea of the templates. If those templates were to change later, I add one more folder, I update a permission, I can push those updates from the new template to match an existing set. So basically, instead of creating new folders, I can push changes in whether it is in the idea of permissions or whether it's in the idea of structure, I can push to that. I can copy folder permissions. So I can copy from one to another folder. So if I've got all my permissions set up perfectly on project A, and then I realize, God, project B needs that same set, I can just take all of the permissions and copy and push them over. We can automatically update folder properties to a file. So a folder can have properties just like a file can have properties. And maybe it's got a project name for that folder. Maybe it's got a project number, an area code that we need to work with. These are all the things about this, and I want to update all of the files in that folder with that same information. There's a tool that's available for us to do that. So it synchronizes all the properties applied at the folder level, pushes them down to the file level. I mentioned the idea of creating local folders, being able to take a local folder and, take a Vault folder and create it locally. There's also a tool to clean up files in a local folder. So for a long time, we've had the workspace sync. This is kind of like that, except at a smaller level. Instead of looking at your entire Vault, it's going to look at a particular folder and say, hey, what's in Vault does not match what's in this folder. Maybe there's an extra components created. Maybe there's something that's been renamed. Whatever's not up to date, and it'll clean up. Basically, it'll match what's in my Vault folder with what's in my local folder. So this whole set of tools, that's kind of why I lump these together. This is my set for folders. Then we have a couple of others. We've got task automation. So again, these are things I would typically think of that I could do within Vault, except it's speeding some things up for me. The first one, and the one that I'm showing in my animation there, is the idea of extracting a bill of materials. Of course, I could do this from Inventor, where I go to Inventor, I go to the assembly, and I extract the bill of materials from there. We've moved that same type of functionality over here into Vault. I can select a particular file, go to my IMAGINiT Utilities, and say, just give me a bill of material for that. And it's going to extract the bill of material. The format that we have here, what the order those columns are in, what the columns are named, all of that is the administrator can set up. So that can be set up beforehand so that it's going to look the same way every time you extract it. So it can match the template settings that you're looking for there. When we do, another option that we have within here is this idea of standard folders. And standard folders allow us to set all of our CAD standards, templates, whatever they may be, all of those different types of things, we can put those in the Vault. Now, for years and years, I would say, well, you can, but I don't know if you want to, because we have to copy them. When we have to copy those templates, we have to copy that design data from the Vault to a local drive for Inventor or for AutoCAD or whatever the CAD tool is to access it. This tool allows us to store it into Vault, and when you log in, it checks to see if what you have locally matches the templates that are in Vault. If it does not, it automatically pulls the new information. So it's a get latest. It'll look at your templates, it'll look at your design data, it'll look at your standards that are in Vault, and when you log in, it'll automatically copy those down. I could do that manually, but this is make sure that I don't miss anything. And if I've got 40, 50 users, I've got plenty of companies who have that and more. They don't want everyone to be responsible for having to pull the latest template. This ensures that they do. Now, this is kind of interesting. This can't really be done with Vault today. So this is where I said, well, we're sort of adding some functionality. Vault can generate PDFs, and it can generate a DWF file from a drawing. But what we've added to this is the ability to use the job processor to automatically publish PDF, DWG, or DXF files. We typically do that on a transition. So when you release a file, it goes from work in progress to released. If it is a Inventor drawing, give me a DWG for that. Maybe I need a DXF for my flat pattern. I can have that generated automatically for that, for all of those. Those can actually go inside the Vault or outside of Vault. So we're automating that idea of creating that viewable. It also works with step files. Step files only go inside a Vault, so it's why I kind of set them separately, but we can generate those automatically within there. So we have the idea of all the folder tools that are available to us. We have the idea of the task automation. And then to kind of round this out, we have specific lifecycle tools. And the first one here is kind of nice. It's this idea of a visual lifecycle tab where I have an existing part. It's in a particular lifecycle. And when I change that lifecycle, I get a pretty clear understanding of what lifecycle it's in and what lifecycles it could move to. So when it starts out with this one, this animation that I have, it starts out as work in progress over here to the side, which could move to anything except quick change. Quick change is not part of that. And then when I release that, now it's in released. Now it could move to quick change. It could move back to any of the others based off my area that I'm in. So this is a really great tool. Again, it doesn't change the lifecycle functionality, but it does give me a lot of feedback as to where I'm at in a process and where I can go in that process. And I really like it. It's just as a training tool for people to understand life cycles. If you're new to Vault, new to life cycles, it can be sometimes daunting to look at everything that's available and everything that's possible there and all the different ways that we could use life cycles and how they flow. This, I think, shows that very clearly. So it's just a tab that we've added into Vault that shows that information. Along with life cycles, we have the idea of an email notification. And this is different. This is something we've added to Vault in terms of it's a specialized job that will email clients, not clients, it'll email individuals. It'll provide an email notification when you have a lifecycle state change. So we could say, every time this goes to release, you need to notify this group of people. You could say, every time it goes back to work in progress from released, notify this group of people. Maybe I've got that review state in there and I want to have a project manager take a look at a file. So when I move it to review, I want to automatically anyone in the project management group. This functionality does not exist within Vault Professional today. We can do it to an extent with engineering change orders, but there's nothing for lifecycle changes. So I think it's a great tool for keeping everyone on the same page, keeping the communication going within the company so that everyone understands where the project is, where the pieces are moving, all of those different ideas. So have all the folder things that we can do. We can create the new folders, we can pull with all of that. We've got the automation ideas where we're generating viewables, extracting bills of materials, lots of things kicked off by a job process, a job process kicked off by a lifecycle change. And then we see the lifecycle tools over here where we can do similar types of things where we have notifications and then we can understand where we're at within the life cycles. So all of that is existing. We've had most of this since 2023, some of it a little bit, it's been built up, the series of tools. It's been neat for me to be within IMAGINiT and see these tools constantly expand and all these different options that are there. So if you have our tools today and you're using maybe one part of it, there's a lot here that can be configured and can be used. And the nice thing is we're continuing to add to this. So if we take a look for 2024.1, we've added some features into this. And these are, some of these kind of run in the background. A couple of these are a big deal if you use that type of thing is what I always think. But we did, the software development team did make these compatible from 2020 through 2024. So any release of Vault that's out there from 2020 to 2024, all of those tools are available to you. So even though you might be on a previous release, as these tools move forward, we're setting it up so that they're compatible across the board. One big one is when a drawing is renamed, if it has a PDF that's associated to it, the PDF is automatically renamed. This is not default functionality, which is kind of surprising if we think about it. But if we're using a PDF as a viewable, this was a problem people were running into. They might rename the drawing, but the PDF stayed right where it is. We could generate a new PDF and have new information, but now the corresponding PDF will be named. It's one of the functions that we have as part of that. We have a new tool that will be a message from the administrator. So when users log in, there can be a message displayed to all users, it could be displayed to select groups of users if we wanted to. And having been part of so many Vault implementations and upgrades, one really common thing that happens is we'll say, okay, we're going to do an upgrade of Vault. It's going to happen, we're going to start Friday, you know, and we're going to upgrade the Vault. So as of Friday, no one's allowed in the Vault. And this typically goes out as an email and all those kinds of things, but it's kind of nice. We've built this functionality in where you could have it when people log into the Vault all that week, they get reminded, Friday, you're not getting in here. Friday, you're not getting in the Vault. We're shutting it down. So it's nice that we can include that information and send that out to everyone. One other new thing that I noticed about the new tool set is there's diagnostic data collection. So if you're running into any errors with the tools or trying to figure out why something's working a certain way, there's an option where you can turn it on to collect some data and then send that off to IMAGINiT so they can take a look at it and see if, try and figure out, is it a localized error? Is it a wider system bug, whatever it may be. So before, there was just no real way to collect that information. Now we've built that logging into this. A couple of these are kind of a little different. One is the idea of making the standards folder writable. So when I was talking about folders earlier, I mentioned the idea that we could have a standards folder. And that standards folder would be where you could put your templates, put your design data, put your styles all into Vault. When you log in, it automatically downloads it if it needs to. So if something has changed or you've never downloaded it, it would download it. Typically, when we set that standards folder up, it is a locked folder. It can't be edited, it can't be changed on your hard drive. We make it a read-only folder, and that kind of makes sense because we want the information to come from Vault and not to there. We have had a few customers and a few instances say, you know what we'd really like to see? We would like to be able to use that standards folder, but also make local changes. So we've changed that so that that folder is writable. One thing I did not mention earlier was the idea of copying a URL. We could always copy a URL in Vault so that we could pass it to someone so they could open it in the thin client. We now support Vault Gateway for that as well. We can copy a URL that's compatible with Vault Gateway. If you're not familiar with Vault Gateway is something that's available with Vault Professional, where we can, instead of, if you're remote, instead of VPNing in to access your Vault that way, you could use the Vault Gateway. So essentially, it's a web server that you could log into and give you access to your Vault. It has to be configured. Several things have to be set up to make that happen. But particularly, it started with COVID and it's just kept on going. People are working remote. People are working off-site. It's nice to not rely on that VPN tunnel, to be able to access this via a web server and pull the information in that way. So that's something that could be set up, and we now support copying URLs. So I could just pass someone, I could say, hey, this is all you need to log. If you've got that gateway, if you've got the information, here's the file I'm talking about. I'll drop it in chat, and you could click on that link and run directly to it. And then the last one that stood out to me, this was really interesting. I was on a call. This was implemented very recently, and to answer a specific issue. We had a client who wanted to view step files. They had a lot of step files that were regenerated for CAM, and they just wanted to view them in the thin client. Well, the thin client only views DWF files, and DWF files are not automatically created from step files. Matter of fact, there wasn't a way to create a DWF from a step file unless we did it, opened it, did it in Inventor, then loaded that into Vault, which we did not want to do. So now we've added functionality that a viewable can be created for step files. That viewable can then be viewed by the Vault thin client on the other end. So we have all the things we saw before, all the folder tools that we have available to us, the automation tools that are available, then the idea of the lifecycle tools, and now we are adding to that. We've got a new series of tools that are available, and this is just part of the today. So if you go download the Vault Utilities, you probably may have gotten an email saying there's some new options available. If you download and install those, all these will be available to you as well. So if you're looking to where to get these and where to go, you can visit IMAGINiT.com. Just right on our products page, there's utilities for the Vault client that are there. If you don't have a license, you can talk to your sales rep. Like I said, if you're one of our customers, then this is a part of the entitlement that you have as part of being one of our customers, and we can get you some licensing for that. They're also available for purchase. And that's all I have for today. It's what I wanted to do is review that. I'm going to open it up here in just a minute for questions, and I appreciate everyone's time and attention.